everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm really glad you could join me here today. And I've got a book review for you today that I've actually been wanting to do for quite a while, but timing and everything just didn't work out quite to my favor. So I'm finally getting around to this book review, and we'll get right to that in just a few minutes. Just a couple of things that I want to remind you. Always make sure to check the description below the video, because I do leave links and little hints as to things that have been going on. There's links to all my social medias down there and ways that you can find out more about me or ways that you can support me. So definitely check the description below. And stay tuned to the end of the video, because I will be catching you up on a few little odds and ends at the end. So without further ado, let's get right to it. I am doing a non-spoiler review of the first book in the Wheel of Time series, and that is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. And I say non-spoiler because I want to make sure that those of you who are watching have a chance to get an idea of what the book is like. If you are new to the Wheel of Time, that way you don't have a whole lot that's spoiled for you. And I do have a spoilery discussion that I had with a fellow YouTuber named Elliot, and I will be posting the recording of that one here in a couple of weeks probably. I still need to edit it. It's a longer video, so I want to make sure I can edit it properly and get it out to you, but I will be posting that here in the next couple of weeks, and that will be more of a spoiler review if you are a seasoned Wheel of Time reader and you want to hear more of my thoughts and his thoughts on the first book in the Wheel of Time. Feel free to tune into that. I'll be posting that later. And I'll leave a link to Elliot's YouTube channel below so that you can go check him out too, because he is a really cool dude and he puts out some good videos. So with that being said, let's get right to the review. This is my second time through the Wheel of Time, and I stopped after book 2 when I first got into it. I don't know why I never continued on. It wasn't that I didn't like the books, I don't know. I never went back to it. So I'm going back through and I'm rereading the first 2 books, and then I'm going to proceed on through the rest of the series eventually. I'm reading book 2 right now, which is called The Great Hunt. And as you may know or may have heard, The Wheel of Time is extremely popular. It's an extremely popular series. Lots of people love it. Lots of people hate on it too, which I think is unfortunate. But it's very, very well known in the fantasy community, and Amazon is making a live action series out of the Wheel of Time books. And that's coming, I'm guessing, probably not till next year now. But that's pretty exciting. And it's been a long time coming. Fans have wanted it for a long time, as long as it's done right. And so it's really exciting to see that coming. And I said to myself, I am going to get back into the Wheel of Time and get caught up so that I'm ready when the TV series comes out, because I don't want to go into the TV series not knowing what the heck's going on, right? So The Eye of the World is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. And there is a lot to love in this series. Yes, it's more traditional fantasy. Yes, it's older fantasy. It doesn't bear a lot of the markings that some of the newer, more mainstream fantasy is putting out nowadays. But it is a massive, epic fantasy series, and I highly recommend you check it out. I was blown away when I first picked up the book, and I remember back when I first picked it up the very first time that the opening scene just blew me away, and it did the same for me this time around too. I mean, it just started off with a bang. A lot of fantasy series that I read, they take their own sweet time building up in the beginning, and then, maybe about a quarter of the way through or a half of the way through, they start getting more intense and more interesting and everything like that. This book hits you right off the bat with the opening scene, and you're just like, whoa, what did I just encounter? What did I just read? And it just grabs you right at the very beginning. So I was very, very happy with the way it started, and I'm gonna come at this from a few different angles. I'll come at it from the character angles, and I'll come at it from the story and overall plot angles as well. But just to start off with, right off the bat, that opening scene is just amazing, and it gives you a window into what happened in the past. And then as you progress through the book, you get little tidbits of information that feed back into that opening scene. So it is more traditional fantasy in that there is good and there is evil. There's not a whole lot of morally gray here, although there are morally gray characters and morally gray moments. But the evil and the good in this book are very, very black and white. So you do get that a lot more traditionally, very much like Tolkien in that respect. Tolkien had the Dark Lord Sauron, and then you had the light side with the elves and different characters like that. So it's very Tolkien-esque in that respect, with a few exceptions. There are some more morally gray characters, but on the whole, it's very black and white when it comes to good versus evil. However, it puts an interesting spin on it, because the basic premise of this story is that at some point long, long ago, the Dark One, Baal Zaman, or Shaitan, as he's also called, which is very similar to Satan, if you're familiar with Christianity. It comes at it from the point of there was a group of a few very strong with the ways of magic that defeated the Dark Lord and imprisoned him, and yet because of the outsurge of power that happened when they imprisoned him and his minions, the men who can wield the power, and it's called the One Power in this story, the men who can wield the power are tainted by the evil one. At some point, their power grows so vast and so powerful that they come unglued. They just lose it. They go crazy. And if they're not tamed or stilled, which is something I won't get into, but it's very prevalent in the book. They talk about stilling men who have the power and preventing them from being able to use it anymore. Unless they are stilled, they can become a danger to themselves and to everyone else around them. And then there's the flip side of the One Power, which can only be wielded by women, and usually they don't have a problem. They are able to wield the One Power with gravity and with respect for its power, and they are able to control it without being overpowered by it. So it's really, really interesting. You don't get that typical dynamic where the men are strong and the women are weak. It's completely the opposite. And I really, really like that, because it really stokes against the whole gender bias of women being the weak ones and men being the strong ones, because it's not like that. I mean, we know from real life that there are just as many strong women as there are strong men, and vice versa. It just, that whole gender specific argument over who's stronger, it doesn't work. It just doesn't fit. And so I really liked that they really portray, in for the most part, they portray men as the weaker party when it comes to wielding the One Power, because they're too easily given over to letting the power go to their heads and to be manipulated by it and controlled by it. So it's really, really interesting. But there are two sides of the one power, and it's very much like Taoism. And follow me here for a minute, because I'm really into Taoist philosophy myself. If you're familiar with the yin and yang, the white curved circle with half circle with a little dot of black in it, and the curved black half circle with the little dot of white in it, the yin yang. If you're familiar with those, it's very, very much like that. The one power has two sides that only work the best if they are kept in balance, if they keep that balance. So it was very prevalent in this book, a lot of the Taoist philosophies, and not just that. There's other things in this book that really spoke to a lot of influence by Eastern philosophy, and I really, really like that, because I really dig Eastern philosophy, folks. I'm kind of a nerd for that kind of stuff, and so I was really, really impressed by that, to see how that was weaved in. And the book often gets picked on for being a Tolkien clone, and in some ways it is. I won't deny that. In some ways, you got your Dark Lord, you got this overarching power. In Tolkien, it was the ring. In Wheel of the Time, it's called the One Power. You got certain characters in the book. There's a character named Padan Fain. I am trying to avoid too many spoilers here, but it is very clear that he is maybe at least partially influenced by the character of Gollum from Lord of the Rings. And if you're not familiar with that, I kind of have to spoil that, because you just don't. I mean, Lord of the Rings has been around for a long time, and you may have seen the movies. So, Gollum gets overpowered by the power of the ring, and he gets captured by the minions of Mordor and tortured until he gives up the location of the hobbits who have the ring and everything. So there are some parallels between Gollum and Padan Fain's character, and there are the chosen one tropes, the farm boys who are chosen to be mighty, but that's where it kind of stops. There's those kind of overarching tropes, but then that's where the Wheel of Time really, really becomes unique. And so in the Eye of the World, we see these three people who are potentially the focus of the Dark One. He's looking for that one person who might eventually become the Dragon Reborn, who is going to try and overthrow him, but he's trying to manipulate them early on, and he doesn't know which one it is. So there's three boys at the beginning that, they're having these dreams of the Dark One, and he's talking to them, but it's pretty clear he doesn't know which one it is. And you really don't find out until the end of the book exactly who the Dark One needed to be afraid of. I mean, you kind of have an idea. If you've heard any of the stories about Wheel of Time, if you've heard people talk about it, you probably know. But it's really interesting following these three boys in particular, and all of their companions too. There's just some really, really interesting characters. You got Randolph Thor, you got Matt Cawthon, you got Perrin, who is the blacksmith's apprentice and everything. He's really cool, and there's some really unique arcs that follow them along the way as they learn about what's happening in their hometown and what's happening in the world at large. That is kind of pushing each of them on towards their own separate destinies. And I thought that was really, really amazingly done, and very different from Lord of the Rings. So that's why I say, be careful of those who say that it's a Lord of the Rings clone, because while it bears some resemblances, it really doesn't. It's completely different. than The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. So keep that in mind. I definitely recommend you read this. As I mentioned before, the women in this book have a very strong role. One of the primary characters in the book are the Aes Sedai, and they are witches, more or less. They're from a kingdom called Tar-Valon, um, where there's this large white tower that all the Aes Sedai hail from, and that's where they're trained and everything. And you get to see one particular Aes Sedai who has been under the training for a long time. She's very powerful and things like that. And you get to see other characters who are brand new to wielding the one power, and they don't even realize they're doing it. And as they grow and learn throughout the book, they begin to realize that they are destined to probably eventually become Aes Sedai, or in some shape or fashion similar to it. There is a great warrior that accompanies them. He's a warrior. He's very strong and powerful, muscular built, and he is a very, very competent warrior and swordsman. He accompanies them on the journey, and I just loved learning about the characters, and you get a little bit of the history of the Two Rivers, which is the first town they start out in, and then you get little tidbits of history of other parts of the world as the story progresses. But the info dumps are not overwhelming. There's not that many info dumps about the history of the world. you do get a whole bunch of stuff where characters are, they're hiking up their dress, or they're scratching their ear, or things like, little tidbits that the author gives you into the everyday goings on as people are living their lives. And a lot of people pick on that. It's like, if I have to hear one more time about, how they're grabbing their dress and fiddling with their dress. But guys, it's not that pronounced. I mean, come on. It's there, but it doesn't detract from the story. At least it didn't for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it nonetheless. The plot was very even-handed. I'll talk about that next. It was very, very methodical. It didn't give you too much information right away, but it didn't just drag you along for pages and pages and pages without giving you something interesting to keep your thirst ready for the next scene. It was very, very well done, and that's a lot to say for a first book in this series. A lot of times with a first book, authors are just kind of getting their feet wet, and the pacing isn't that great. But I thought the pacing was just fine in Eye of the World. I was not really bored per se. It's a long book, and so there were parts where I was like, oh wow, this is taking a long time to get through. But it wasn't because it was boring or slow paced. It's just a lot of detail about the world that you're trying to balance with the action and the character interactions. So I really thought the pacing was quite well done in this book. And some of the enemy characters, the antagonists, there's several of them. There's the Myrddraal, which are basically human. They're genetically engineered humans in a sense, with really, really extreme magical abilities. They don't have any eyes. They're very kind of creepy. And then there's the Trollocs, which are also malformed humanoid creatures, I think, in a sense. That's my understanding of them. And they have a few differences between the different Trolloc races, but they're all kind of essentially the same. They're just this brute killing force that accompany the Myrddraals, and they're working for the Dark One. And there was a little bit of Tolkien in that. It really reminded me a lot of the orcs and the Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings, but at the same time, very, very different as well. So I didn't feel like I was looking at a copy of Tolkien, but it reminded me of Tolkien. So, and the book takes place in several different cities and locations. I really, really like that. The vast spread of locations that the characters visited and had encounters in with various different creatures. It made the world feel very, very big, even though we only covered a small part of the world that Wheel of Time is set in this first book. It made it feel really, really big. And I just, I was really enthralled by a lot of the places they visited. And there's this understanding from history and word of mouth that the Aes Sedais were the ones who were responsible for the breaking of the world and following the Dark One, and so there's a lot of hatred and distaste for the Aes Sedais, and so as they go to these different locations, not only are they having to watch out for the minions of the Dark One, but they're also having to watch out for those, such as a group called the White Cloaks, who are seeking out to eradicate anyone who is either an Aes Sedai or those who are working for Aes Sedais, or who might even be loosely associated with Aes Sedais. So it's really, really cool. And the magic system in this book, it's subtle at some times and not so subtle at other times. There are just great and wild and powerful feats that are accomplished in certain occasions, and other times it's very, very subtle, just a subtle manipulation of the surroundings around the group of different people. So very, very cool. There was one part that I really, really liked in the book where the characters were going through this system of, it's kind of like a hidden in-between world between our world and the spirit world. Almost, it's kind of an in-between world. It's called the Ways, and if you take the Ways, you can navigate to different places on the map with a very, very fast speed. But the flip side is it is extremely hard to navigate the Ways, and it's kind of creepy at sometimes. You almost feel like you're in a haunted house. I mean, it's just dark all around you and there's hardly any light, and I thought that was just really cool. Just so many unique settings that this book takes place in. So I am hugely impressed by this book. I think I was more impressed by it than I was the first time I read it, probably because I didn't remember a whole lot. But as I was reading it, I did start to remember a lot of the things that I had read before, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is where this happens, and things like that. So I can't recommend this book enough. Hey, what's up, guys? I just realized I totally forgot to rate this book. I normally give my dragon rating, so now you are going to get to hear that I am giving this 5 dragons. 5 solid dragons. Okay, and that's all I have to say about this. And now, back to the rest of the video. Really, really good for a first book in a series. And I'm looking forward to getting more into The Great Hunt and getting further on into the series as well as time goes by. So look for more book reviews from me on this series. And let me know in the comments too if you would prefer that I did just more of a general overview of why you should read The Wheel of Time once I'm done with it, or if you'd like to see me do a quick review on my thoughts on the individual books in the series. Let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. So make sure that you pick this book up. Maybe you've already read it and you really loved it. Let me know what your thoughts are. I will say that, man, the ending just blew me away. And I did remember the ending somewhat. But the power and evocative nature of the ending, it wasn't anything like I remembered it, and I was just blown away. It was so good. It was really, really good. So, yeah, check this book series out if you haven't already. If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What did you think of this first book in the series? No spoilers, please, because I haven't read anything else in the series yet. I just barely started book 2 again, so keep that in mind. But talk with me in the comments. Let me know what you thought of the first book and the character development. And if you haven't read it, make sure you check out Eye of the World, because it is a really, really good book. And so, yeah, with that being said, let's get into some housekeeping issues. I just reached 100 subscribers. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Much praise and thanks to you. And I've said in the past that when I reached 100 subscribers, I would do a book review. Or not a book review. Sorry, not a book review. I'm already doing book reviews. What am I thinking? A book giveaway. That's what I meant to say. I would be doing a book giveaway at 100 subscribers. So I am sticking to my word. My limit is $20 or less. I can't spend more than $20 or less. But here's what you have to do to get in on this book review. First of all, you need to be a subscriber. I'm just doing subscribers only for this giveaway. So if you're not subscribed and you want to be part of the giveaway, make sure you subscribe, okay? Second of all, use the hashtag in your comment below, Chaz Giveaway. So capital C, H-A-Z, capital C, guys, I don't know what I'm saying today. Capital C, H-A-S, capital G, and giveaway. You get it. Chaz Giveaway. The C and the G are capitalized. Yeah, there we go. So hashtag Chaz Giveaway. Make sure you leave that in the comments. And if you want to tag me on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, you can message me there and say, hey, I'm a subscriber to your channel. Please put me down for such and such a book. So make sure you let me know in the comments or on Twitter what book you really, really want to have. And make sure you use the hashtag Chaz Giveaway. And I will be reviewing those. I will be doing that. I will be ending that giveaway and selecting the winner by Labor Day in the U.S. So if you are interested in getting a book and being part of this giveaway, do it no later than the first week in September, so I can select the winners by Labor Day. Okay? And I'm trying to remember when Labor Day is, but I'll put it down in the description below because I don't have the date right offhand. Another thing you need to know is I was recently featured on Geek on My Sleeves channel, geeking out over Mistborn Book 3 and kind of Mistborn Era 1 as a whole. So you can check that out. I'll leave the link in the description below as well. And make sure you subscribe to their channel too. And, one more thing. I am going to be doing a video very soon on casting for a Mistborn movie. Now, don't take that the wrong way. There's not a movie yet. It hasn't been announced. But Brandon Sanderson is kind of working on the script. So I just thought it would be cool to get together and talk about what actors we think would be a good fit for roles in a Mistborn movie. So, as I said, it hasn't been announced or cast or even fully a script written yet, but is coming. So I thought that would be really cool. The guys on Geek at My Sleeve are going to be joining me for that on my channel. And so I'll tell you more about that in the near future. Make sure that you're doing all this stuff on the side of the screen. I've finally decided this is the side of the screen that it fits best on, at least for right now. Maybe that'll change in the future, but for right now, it's right up here. You need to do all this stuff so that you don't miss out on my future videos. And don't forget to sign up for that giveaway if you want to be part of it. You need to be subscribed and let me know. Use the hashtag as I said before. And don't forget to be reading more books, guys. I will talk to you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye.